Hey guys and welcome to my early analysis on Biscuit.
What the dog doing?
She is expected to be the next character getting released right after the Chainsaw Man collab, and since we're almost done with the current banners, I figured that this would be a good time to take a look at her kit, see what she can do, and let you know if I think she is worth going for. As a quick disclaimer, the information we will be going over is based on leaks, so it's possible that her kit might be slightly different on release. But as far as I know, the last time we had a significant change on the character is going way back to Laplas, and for the rest of the characters after that, their kit pretty much stayed the same on release, so I would say that the information we have right now is 95% accurate. With that being said, I'm going to start this analysis with her basic information. Biscuit is a burst type 2 support from the Tetra line of units, and she will also be a rocket launcher user. It was not specified by the leaks, but we can safely assume that her base HP will be the same as the other SSR supports. Because if you were not aware, all of the SSR characters who are in the same class, so attacker, support, or defender, all have the same base HP and base attack. The only difference being is their defense value. Knowing this can help us estimate how good Biscuit will be because a lot of her abilities actually scale with her max HP. With that being said, we can expect her stats to be similar if not identical to my Coco if they both have the same levels and equipment. So her stats at level 207 with tier 8 level 0 equipment comes down to 783,818 HP, 24,954 attack, and 4,503 defense, which is kind of just whatever. Next up, we will be taking a look at her skills. Do keep in mind that the values will be based on a level 10 upgraded skill, so expect lower skill multipliers for lower levels. Her skill 1 activates at the end of full burst, and this will only apply to your attacker units. Her skill 1 will increase her team's critical rate by 5.77%, and it will also recover their HP by 5.77% of Biscuit's max HP every second. Both the crit rate buff and the HP recovery will last for 10 seconds. It kind of works like a noise burst ability, but instead of HP increase, you get more crit rate, and Biscuit can heal twice as much. The healing from this is okay, but the critical rate buff is pretty bad, because remember that the 5.77% value is from a level 10 skill, so you will probably get around half of that or less from a lower investment unit. One more thing is we all know that critical rate and critical damage in NIKKE is additive instead of a straight up multiplier, so the critical rate buff from Biscuit's skill 1 will barely make a difference compared to the other utilities that the other units have. Moving on to her skill 2, Tug of War. Activates when a defender ally drops below 50% HP, and this will only affect the defender ally. The affected ally will be invincible for 5 seconds and will recover 23.36% of Biscuit's maximum HP. This can only be activated twice per battle. Unlike her skill 1 which is split between damage and HP regeneration, this ability focuses more on survivability. And the first thing that comes to mind is that this will work really well with Makima and any other defenders that are good in PvP. Invincibility for 5 seconds is actually insane, so this will let them survive on the field way longer. The only thing I'm not sure about is if there's a cooldown between the two activations of the effect. Because if you think about it, if the activation has no cooldown, defenders like Makima can theoretically drop below 50% HP twice and be invincible for a total of 10 whole seconds just from Biscuit's skill 2. Of course, that will maybe require to have a dedicated healer, and it's also assuming that Makima is your only defender unit, but if that was the case, that you can activate the invincibility back to back, this actually has a potential to be really good in PvP. Moving on to her burst, Walk Training. This one is on a 40-second cooldown and it also has two different effects. The first one will affect 2 members in your team whose cover has been destroyed, and it will simply recover 93.6% of the cover's HP. On the other hand, the second effect will apply to all of your support units. It will increase their attack by 43.08% for 10 seconds and restore 55.44% of attack damage as HP for 10 seconds. First of all, the main thing that will be holding this back is the cooldown duration. 40 seconds is actually very long for a burst 2 unit, so you won't get as much value from it compared to when you use characters like Rupee or Dala, because those units have really good burst effects, but only with a 20-second cooldown. Being able to recover the cover's HP to almost full is really good, but the second effect only affecting support units is also a big downside. It would have been fine if they flipped the skill condition from Biscuit's skill 1 and burst, so that the support characters can get the crit rate and the healing effect, and the attackers can instead get the attack increase and lifesteal. It makes more sense that way because your DPS characters will be dealing more damage, so it's better overall. Now that we went over her skills, one more thing I want to quickly mention is her energy generation. We currently don't have the stats for it, but this is a very important factor to consider, especially for PvP. Simply because the more energy generation your team has, the faster you will be able to use your burst. So for a lot of cases, this can be a major factor for whether you win or not. But if we look at most of the rocket launcher units, they all have pretty good generation. So hopefully Biscuit won't have any problems with that. So moving on, we will be going over the different things you can expect from Biscuit, both good and bad. First going over PvE, and then we will talk about PvP. First up, you can expect her to be somewhat difficult to use because of how the skill conditions are set up. Aside from the cover generation from her burst, each of her skills only target a specific class of characters, so the amount of utility your members get from an individual level is very low. On top of that, the different types of healing that she provides is limited in some way. The healing from her skill 1 is good, but you won't be activating this too often if she is your only burst type 2 unit. So the best option to get around this is by using a burst 2 DPS like Rupee or Guilty. Doing this will let you use a burst 2 skill whenever Biscuit is on cooldown without compromising on your team's damage output. So I would say that it's almost necessary to have a 1-2-2 formation with a burst 2 DPS. But if you do decide to use a burst type 2 DPS, her skill 2 is basically thrown out the window, because outside of PvP, you don't really have any great options for a burst 1 or 3 defender. And going out of your way to use a suboptimal defender just to be able to use her skill 2 is not a good move. So if you don't really care about PvP, I would say that she is an easy skip. There are just a lot of complicated things going on with their kit, so you are better off using any of the other top tier burst type 2 characters and leave the healing up to characters like Rapunzel or even Helm if you want a good balance of damage output and survivability. Now moving on to PvP. This is where Biscuit will shine the most, but like I always say, if a character is good in PvP, think of it as a bonus, not the main reason why you are pulling for them. But if you are really into PvP, here's what you can expect from Biscuit. For one, Biscuit actually synergizes really well with a lot of the top tier PvP units. Biscuit's burst will work insanely well with Emma because machine gun units will benefit the most from the lifesteal effect. If that was not enough, the attack increase is also really good, so even if Emma naturally has a lower attack damage because she is a support, she can still do quite a bit more damage, therefore more healing because of that. Next up, Biscuit's skill 2 is perfect when combined with Jackal, because Jackal will be taking a lot of damage from her damage sharing, so invincibility for 5 seconds, possibly even 10, is a really good piece of utility. And of course her skill 1 will be decent for attacker units, but you don't really have to worry about this because the critical rate buff is pretty insignificant. And if you're using Emma in your teams, she will be the one doing most of the healing, so this is pretty useless. So overall, I would say that Biscuit is high B tier for PvE, and I would say that she has the potential to be SS tier, or simply a must-have for PvP. With that being said, that's about everything I have for my Biscuit pre-release analysis. Let me know what you think of this upcoming character, and if you are trying to go for her. I also want to mention that as of making this video, a bunch of new character kits have been leaked, so look forward to my pre-release analysis on that. As always, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.